So, first of all, for somebody of my generation, it's always an emotion to come back to Berlin. I don't know how many of you are Berliners, but I see that all of you are young, and as you know, Walter Benjamin wrote his famous last book, which was Paris, Capital of the 19th Century. And I think that somebody, maybe some in the audience, should write another book, which is Berlin, Capital of the 20th Century. And Berlin has managed this title, I think, because how much it has suffered from the Belle Epoque, when it was a challenging power, because of Nazism, because of destruction. This is Rossellini's film about Berlin in 1945, because of division, which is still important in the city. And I invite those who do not come from here to look at the maps where the Berlin Wall was, something that we tend to forget about that. And often people do not pay attention, young people do not even remember where the wall was built, the Berliners themselves, And also I would like to think that there are a few important films. Wim Wenders made a wonderful film on Berlin just 2 years before the collapse of the Berlin Wall. There is another film on East Germany which I like very much, and then perhaps the film which is most relevant for our discussion about privacy, about power, about lies, which is the lives of others. I don't know how many of you have seen this film. It's okay, so I don't have anything to say in addition to this film, But perhaps one thing only, one important thing only, in addition to this film, which shows very much how things could change when you are under threat, and of course the end of the history of Berlin in the 20th century is a history with an happy ending. An happy ending, an ending which had promises, and now after 25 years, I think it's possible to assess how many of these promises have been realized, and how many young imaginative people should, as Lorenzo said, should perhaps try to get in the future. Now, I go back to my reflections about power, and it seems to me that power has very much a perverted structure. A perverted structure because it always wanted to hold information for a variety of reasons. The official reasons are what we know: to prevent oppositors, to prevent revolutions, terrorism, attacks, and so on. And in order to do that, it developed a very huge and powerful infrastructure. Often the infrastructure is more warning than the power itself, because it's what the power would like to know in order to store this incredible amount of information, most of which are generally useless to them. And on the other hand, power suffers any form of transparency. Later on, Miguel is going to address a very specific case of lack of transparency, a trade agreement which is under discussion at the advanced levels of discussion. Miguel will speak about that, but shows very much that in some core areas of policy making, power does its best in order to prevent others to know what's happening. Now, my first suggestion is to say that perhaps there is not only a rational component. The rational component, which is I want to know, and I don't want to be known, because that's the way in which I preserve my power. I get advantage by doing that. But there is also non-rational components, and these non-rational components you can see in other anthropological societies. When, for example, secrets were artificially created just to assess a social hierarchy, even when the social hierarchy was not directly associated to material privileges. The fact that some people know better than others, or at least they pretend that they know better than others, up to the point that often they pretend to know something about the others that they really actually didn't know. And then one important component. The other component is that it keeps secrets on the way in which decision making is taken, always prevent others to say, you know, the decision was wrong, was badly informed. As Russell Brand has said in the United Kingdom, sometimes to prevent people to say the emperor has no clothes. And therefore you maintain one way in which exclude others from these sort of things. Now that's a digital divide on which I hope you will be indulgent. I am quite sure that not many of you are able to tell what's the name of this machine. That's the machine which I used as a means of propaganda when I was younger. That's the mechanical typewriter where my brother and I have learned to type. That's the way in which we recorded the things. So this is my generation. But apparently something has changed, and this something has changed in what belongs to your generation. That's the digital revolution, you know. And the digital revolution has also totally changed the way in which information can be stored, can be acquired, can be transmitted, can be retrieved, and so on. And it's not, I mean, that's the point. You know, we have seen the lives of the others, and as you know, here in Berlin, there is now an archive which would allow each Berliner to look at its files and to see if he has been spied by neighbors and so on. Quite accessible archive, but still an archive, you know. Now, how things have changed from 25 years ago, when the stories of the life of others happened and so on, how things have allowed power to know more on the one hand, but also have allowed we citizens to know more about power and to be able, you know, to counteract the decisions, and even not just the decisions, but also the willingness to keep the decisions outside of public transparency, you know. Here in Berlin, again, you know, Berlin continues to be an important capital. There was, at the beginning of May, a new art in Alexanderplatz, one of the typical places where you could really feel, you know, the oppression of power during the ages of the divided Berlin. And these statues are very simple. They are the statues of three individuals, Assange, Snowden, and Manning, which, according to different vocabulary, have been called traitors or heroes. One of them is in jail, another one is into an embassy and has no freedom outside the embassy. The third one is perhaps better off with Russia, but you know, his life is under risk and so on. And this Italian sculptor, Davide Turbino, has made these three figures on these chairs, and there is a fourth chair which is empty. And the fourth chair is an important message to say each of us can at a certain point disclose some secrets. If we are willing to do that, and if we are willing to risk that power is going to retaliate about that. And I think it's a very simple idea, but it's quite a useful idea, and reminded me that this is not the first time which happened. First of all, I mean, very briefly, I think there are some important differences between the project of WikiLeaks on the one hand and the project of Snowden on the other hand. You know, in the case of WikiLeaks, there is a long-term political project, and this long-term political project is everything which is done by power should, at a certain point, be of public domain. And if power doesn't allow for that, I create a technology to allow people to become whistleblower by providing the information. And if you think about that, this was organized and done long before any specific act of evidence was available. And actually the infrastructure was precisely created in order to allow everybody to provide information. The case of Snowden is different, quite different, because at a certain point, Snowden found himself in the critical situation, which he didn't expect, he didn't desire, actually, I don't think that many of us would have decided in our lives to work directly or indirectly for intelligence, So Snowden was at the beginning, I would say, neutral about that, because he decided to work indirectly for the infrastructure of intelligence. But at a certain point, by doing this job, that's actually the reason why, since it's dynamic character, which moves from one perspective to another perspective, he will certainly become a typical subject for novels and films, because we can see its evolution over time. Snowden at a certain point found something that he found too big, too disappointing, and then decided to become a whistleblower. And by the way, what is quite important in this story is that he was perfectly aware of what he was going to face. It was, if you work for the intelligence, you know that there are some rules of the game, that if the rules of the game are violated, the structure of the intelligence has a means and the possibility to retaliate against you. So the news, I think the important news is not that Snowden is in a secret location. The important news is that Snowden is still alive, which is already, I think, from this perspective, quite a success. Something similar has happened in the past, in a non-digital world. And that was another turning point in European history, 1917, the Russian Revolution, which was managed by the Bolsheviks with very strong views about the power of the bourgeoisie. And therefore, when Trotsky became the foreign secretary of Russia, Soviet Russia, in 1917, he was not surprised to find out that the archives of the Tsarist ministry contained a lot of secret documents, and in these secret documents, Russia, the Tsarist Russia, was negotiating both with France and the United Kingdom on the one hand, and with Prussia and Austria on the other hand, on the side on which to fight wars, to wage wars, or if waging war at all, And that there was basically an audit, and at the end, the United Kingdom and France won the audit, and that was the reason why Russia started the First World War on one side rather than on the other side. And Trotsky didn't know what to do, actually. It took 2 weeks to think about it. 2 weeks, The revolution is not easy to organize. There were many problems. But it took 2 weeks to think and to explore the documents. After the 2 weeks, he made it clear that the documents could have become public. And he said, secret diplomacy is a necessary tool for a proprietary minority, which is compelled to deceive the majority in order to subject it to its interests. Quite clear, So, transparency is for everybody, is in the advantage of everybody. Secrecy is what a few hold against the others. I think that it should not be ignored. The scandal, of course, was perpetrated in Europe by a few minorities. Do not forget that many socialist parties, the Socialist International, was not able to take a position against the war. And that actually was the reason why there was a split in the labor movement and the political parties of the left. But that's a long story ago. But I think it's quite important to remember that at this time, the Russian Bolsheviks found an important ally. And the ally was outside Europe, was in the United States, was President Wilson, which at this point decided, after the Russian Revolution, to enter into the war, to stop the war, apparently. And then, unfortunately, became an ally But at the beginning, the idea was to enter into the war, to stop the war, by suggesting the 14 famous points of President Wilson, and the first of these points is precisely about transparency in international law, transparency of treaties, transparency in diplomacy. You know? So the main point suggested by the communist Trotsky was taken by the capitalist Americans. When the forces of capitalism, we can argue, were still looking for transparency, because transparency was going to be in the interest of everybody. I mean, those of you who are interested in political philosophy might know that these ideas were not new, that were suggested by political philosophers such as Jeremy Bentham in the United Kingdom, by Immanuel Kant in Königsberg, which in 1795, in his treaty towards perpetual peace, argued that international treaties should be made public and that international law should be made public. Of course, history doesn't go as planned, and we knew that at the end of the First World War ended up in secrecy, of course, or anyhow, with quite a lot of negotiations and the division of Europe, which was not what President Wilson envisaged. Unfortunately, Lenin and Trotsky did not participate in the Paris Conference, also because of the fault, if you like, and therefore this precipitated a situation of very unstable Europe, which continued, and something very similar happened here at the outskirts of Berlin, in Potsdam, where a few gentlemen met again outside any public transparency to decide what Europe should be distributed. Still, the point about transparency in international affairs remains behind the agenda. It's a point which has not yet been enforced, and every time there are crucial issues at stake, as we will see in a minute in terms of trade, we know nothing. Technocrats know what's happening again, and even in national parliaments, which I mean somehow should have a say, a voice about that, are informed ex post. But the real problem is that perhaps we should take into account that transparency, of course, doesn't apply to foreign policy. In principle, should apply even more to domestic policies. And this is still a challenge that we need to take into account. We wonder if what really would like to get is transparency as such, or something more general, and if you like, more robust, which is accountability. You know, accountability means not only that we are informed about the decisions, but whenever there is a decision taken, there is a clear relationship between the ruler and the ruled, and the ruled should have a say on what the ruler is taking into account. To go back to the Nazi state, you know, the National Security Agency. And I mean, again, I'm impressed by the technology, by the capability to use all this information. I'm impressed by what the DDR managed to do in terms of getting so much information, you know. I don't have time to read my emails, and I'm one single person. How do they manage to get and to make access of so much information? Why do they want to know all these sort of things? Of course, now, with the digital divide, they have got experts, and they're creating an infrastructure of frustrated experts which are not any longer able to live their own lives, but invent devices, algorithms, and other things in order to retrieve the key information which might be needed in a specific project. Once, and that I think is a very crucial point, once Snowden has revealed not war crimes, not security programs, and so on. Snowden, by the way, there's a poster down there, Snowden has revealed something else. Has revealed that power is nosy. No? And this revelation has been unbearable. They wanted to spy without being known they were spying others. And for that, I think, they make so much fuss, you know, up to the point that, of course, things have changed, but still is in a situation very difficult. Now, I discussing with that last night, I tried to make my point and which is a basic difference between what was the surveillance in the DDR and what is the American program now. The DDR needed to let everybody know that it was spying. It was not secret that they were spying everybody. When I went for the first time in Alexanderplatz back in 1971, I was a child, but in 72, I remember clearly that there was visible structure of secret agents around. It was visible even to me that I was a child. They didn't pretend that citizens were free. They wanted to know that citizens were spied, that they were spying each other, that there were prizes for somebody spying the others and for speaking about the neighbors and so on. Because that was congenial to a system which could survive only by making everybody feeling not free. Now, the situation with the American program, the National Security Agency program, is quite the opposite. America is proud to be a free society. It's proud to call for freedom of opponents. When it comes out that you are free, provided they do what you do precisely what they want to do, then they started to become crazy. How is it possible? Not the enemies, not the terrorists. The American average citizen was spied. And that, I think, is the big problem, you know? I finish, because I promised that I wouldn't talk too long. There are some problems which are on the policy agenda. And the problems, I'm very happy to discuss the issues with your alternatives, because you know the issues, Daphne and Lorenzo have been too shy to say, but say, for example, the Lampedusa Charter. The Lampedusa Charter about immigrants was clearly 3 years ahead on the European public agenda. You know? So I think that you will be in this workshop and other workshops, perhaps you will create something equally original and in perspective. There is something which needs to be done in order to understand what should be done and what should be not done. Put yourself for 1 second in Snowden's clothes. What he could have done? Either business as usual, do not say anything, or there were no internal procedures which he could have used in order to stop the program of the government. The only possibility he had to denounce and eventually to stop, as it has happened, this program of the government was to go public, to become a whistleblower. You know? So perhaps the one way, you know, we need to create, unless we want to continue the proliferation of whistleblowing, you know? And I think that so far we need to discuss the sorts of protection which are needed for the whistleblowing. And I think that Europe might be the place where this is going to be more progressive than in the United States and everywhere else. I would like also to point out the dangers, you know. A protection of whistleblowing as such might generate a new witch hunting. Whistleblowers were particularly frequent in the DDR, more than anywhere else. Do we want to get back to that, or do we need it also to regulate this sort of activities? What is the difference? Somebody might argue there's a difference if you are going to denounce private crimes or public crimes. Of course, that's an important difference. You can decide what are the crimes which are more likely to be important from those who are less likely to be important. But I would like to point out, and that's what I recommend very much to your alternatives, that so far we do not have any guidelines about that. Guidelines about the sort of transparency that we would like to know is still to be written. And I would like to say that it's not only power to be schizophrenic. We citizens are also schizophrenic. Because on the one hand, we too are nosy. too often you want to know too much. Maybe some of you have noted that because of my Italian accent that I'm Italian, you know? And in my own country, I've seen that a not particularly loved, especially in the left political figure, Mr. Berlusconi, was spied directly and indirectly, and actually with the things which attracted most the interest of the public opinion were not his public sins, his public wrongdoings and so on, but were his private things. And that has generated a lot of debate, a lot of controversies, a lot of scandals. You know? I mean, you may welcome them if you are a political oppositor to Berlusconi, that's fine. But at the end, shouldn't also the public be trained to distinguish between the public and the private life, and should be able to find the right balance between the right to information on the one hand and the right of privacy. A right of privacy which doesn't apply only to the ordinary citizens, of course, it does, but it also applies to rock stars, to football players and politicians. And perhaps if we learn what is the subtle line between the two things, perhaps we will be able to impose a better way in which secrecy can be combated. Thank you very much.